This is a special edition of the IndyCar Report with Elijah Poe. Elijah and I will be back later this week with our regularly scheduled IndyCar Report. That was hard to say. Where we'll talk about all of the latest news, and if there's any more breaking news, and there probably will be soon, we'll be back with another special IndyCar Report with Elijah to break it all down for you. We were also joined by Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader sports editor Michelle Garmon about midway through the podcast. Please subscribe and turn on the notifications so you know every time we have a Central Indiana Sports Report podcast. Thanks so much.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Menkels.
Welcome, IndyCar fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report with Elijah Poe. And as we expected, Elijah, it only took a couple of days. The news seemed like it was coming, and it has finally come for Will Power, no longer a member of Team Penske.
Yeah, after 17 seasons, it's hard to think there's going to be another driver in that number 12 car. But really, this split, it's been coming all year. It's been a rumor pretty much since race one, and it's not a super shocking to see. But it is a shame to see Will Power leave that team because, he's been a staple for there, like I said, for 17 years in an IndyCar. That's a long time.
Should we just assume it's David Malukas?
I think that's fair to say that it's going to be Malukas up next. We obviously know he is under a Penske contract at AJ Foyt right now. But it also brings up an interesting mark that seat is going to be open at AJ Foyt. And, just a couple hours ago, we also had Rinus Veekay say that he's not going to be returning to Dale Coyne Racing. So we are very much in the thick of silly season for IndyCar.
Speaking of silly season, this means there's also one of the best drivers in IndyCar history available and on the open market.
Yeah, it's going to be huge to see where Will Power ends up going. Obviously, being an IndyCar champion and an Indy 500 winner, I can't imagine there's been more of a touted free agent in IndyCar since maybe when Alex Plow was on the market in the early 2020s, 2021 area. But Will Power brings so much experience, and he's obviously still quick. Having a win this season and been in contention during many parts of 2025, it's going to be really super fascinating to see where he lands because there's a lot of teams that would absolutely love. They'd have to be chomping at the bits right now to see Will Power on the open market.
It seems like Andretti might be the team targeting.
Yeah, I could see him ending up at Andretti. Marcus Ericsson would probably be the one. He would be the one to replace, unless Colton Herta moves to Formula 2, which has been speculated. But then again, that's just speculation. Even though Ericsson has that contract for next year, and motorsports contracts are about as real as an imaginary friend. They can be terminated on an instant, and they can be reworked. I think if he is to move to that Andretti spot, wow, what a lineup you potentially have with Colton Herta, Kyle Kirkwood, and Will Power. I can't imagine it gets much better than that until you look at Team Penske and Chip Ganassi.
And we need to talk a little bit more about the Rinus Veekay thing. You're surprised by that, I know, because you had already counted him back there next year.
I guess I didn't take into account that he could be in that AJ Foyt seat and possibly be another one of those Penske drivers waiting in the shadows. But I am surprised because Rinus had a very good results with Dale Coyne Racing this year. Obviously, having a podium in Toronto, that surprised everybody. It's very shocking to see a driver of that skill go off the market. But then again, Dale Coyne, it's a bottom tier team. And if he has the opportunity to move up, there's definitely teams that are willing to sign him. He's only 24 years old.
And you mentioned Colton Herta going to Formula 2. That looks like it's probably going to happen. Is that your guess?
It's still really up in the air, but from what I've heard in press conferences and the way Colton's talked about the issue, I definitely wouldn't put it out of contention at all. I would not be super shocked to see him go. It really is a shame, the FIA super license point system. At the end of the day, it's a great system to make sure drivers are, held accountable and have the skill to climb up the ladder. But it also really, really hurts those IndyCar drivers. He would have had a seat already in Formula One if it wasn't for the stupid super license thing. But and it's another way for Formula One to kind of get back at American drivers here. Regardless, I think it would be a little bit shocking to see him go to an F2 seat. I think, yeah, he would have to place in the top 9 of that series to get his super license for Formula One. But it would be surprising to see one of IndyCar's best move to a subcategory. But if his dream is Formula One, you can't hate him for going.
That's true. Although I think it would be a huge mistake, like it's been for most of the drivers who have tried that since Mario Andretti. But
I mean, I think it would be a mistake as well. The spot he's in right now with Andretti, these Andretti cars, they haven't been the best in recent years. But with new regulations coming 2028, you're only 2, 3 years out removed from that new car. Might as well stay and build the program. He's got arguably a top 5 seat in IndyCar right now. And here's the thing, if he goes to Formula One and it doesn't end up working out, he's going to be on the outside looking in. Yeah,
yeah,
he's not going to be in the position to drive for a great team because as far as they're concerned, he left IndyCar.
and if that seat opens up, we talked about willpower potentially going to Andretti. I think that's a perfect fit, but that means it probably won't happen. Also, you have the Dennis Hauger situation. I think that Andretti would like him driving for the big team sooner than later. I know that there's the potential of stashing him at Juncos Hollinger, which we have some questions about them and Ray Hall Letterman and now Dale Coyne as well. Lots of open seats, so we're going to have lots of podcasts. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at Andretti. That's a really good seat.
Yeah, and Dennis Hauger is somebody who really dominated that Indy Next Championship, and I'd be pretty shocked not to see him in IndyCar in some form next year in 2026. But Will Power is really the first domino that IndyCar drivers and IndyCar teams needed to fall, and I think now going into these next couple weeks, we're really going to see the 2026 grid shape out. And what a time to be an IndyCar fan right now. There is so much. Not only is the racing great, but the off the track entertainment, depending on where drivers are going to go and what's going to play out. IndyCar really never stops entertaining.
You and I will continue to come on and talk about all the news as it breaks. We will have our regularly scheduled IndyCar report this week because there's so much more to talk about, and we'll get some others on to talk about it. Speaking of which, we're joined now by Michelle Garmon, who wants to weigh in on the situation. And Michelle, we're talking about all the news that's breaking, and now not only are there empty seats open for potentially good drivers, but Will Power's a free agent, one of the top free agents in IndyCar history.
At the last race, they speculated if whether he would even return to
He
IndyCar.
really needs to stay in this series.
Oh, he does. It'll be interesting because I do think that there will be some teams that will be looking for a big name driver. Yeah.
All of them should be. There's not a team out there that's not named Penske or Ganassi that couldn't use Will Power, Elijah.
I was just thinking about it. You don't have every season in IndyCar where you have the opportunity to sign not only a series champion, but more importantly, an Indy 500 champion. And I think these teams should be seething at the bits to get Will Power in their seat because he's been one of the quickest drivers for the past 10 years. His longevity obviously shows having a race win this year, and he's been in contention all throughout 2025. It's going to be really cool to see where he lands because he is definitely a hot commodity.
Oh, a team that comes to mind for me, but I don't think they have any openings. But I just wonder if the Arrow McLaren team would be looking at him, or even maybe Andretti Racing.
As we've been talking about Andretti, I think he'd be the perfect fit there. And the other news that seems to be going on today is Colton Herta potentially going over to Europe to race. So it would open a seat. Of course, they also have Dennis Hauger, one of those hot incoming rookies. So there's a lot still to be determined. And Elijah, still to be determined is the fate of Connor Daly, our favorite driver here at the Central Indiana Sports Report. And man, these teams are foolish if they don't sign him because he can win the 500.
I really don't see a world next year. I mean, I could eat my words because that's just the way it is with IndyCar, but I don't see a world next year where Connor Daly is not driving for that Juncos Hollinger team. I think if you look at his results throughout the year, he's been fairly consistent on street and road courses. but he has really, really thrived on ovals, and that's no surprise. But, it is still hard for a driver to get those results, and he's consistently gotten those results on ovals. And if even Juncos Hollinger doesn't sign him, I'd be shocked to see him not in a full-time seat.
What would be the odds of do you think that, especially if Malukas goes to takes a power seat, would AJ Foyt Racing be interested in Connor Daly?
Man, I would
I
hope
think
so.
I think with the new partnership, I would be surprised if VK isn't in that number 4 next year with Team Penske. With that partnership realignment, obviously Malukas was on a Penske contract this year, not an AJ Foyt contract. So that seat really feels like that's kind of a Penske, maybe even a Team Penske lesson for that number 4 car at AJ Foyt. Um, but I would just be shocked in general to see Daly out of the sport. I mean, he moved up 19 spots on Sunday, and it's like it was nothing, finished in 5th. There's no way that talent can be out.
How about Ray Hall Letterman Racing, especially with them coming back to Indiana and being in Zionsville? I mean, Connor's right there in Noblesville.
Good point, Michelle. Rahal Letterman is in contracts with Devlin DeFrancesco, but you have to think at this point, Elijah, they got it. They're trying to do everything they can to move on from that.
Feels like maybe a foregone conclusion here. Obviously, with him not even finishing inside the leader circle in points and getting beat by his rookie teammate Louis Foster, he just has too much experience and too little results for him to stay in that seat. I'd be interested to see what that contract is. I'm not 100% sure if he's locked on for next year, but regardless, I can't
He's out.
imagine
He's
him
under
leaving.
contract for next year
Well,
with Rahal Letterman.
even with you saying that, I still would be shocked to see him in that seat. He had some good moments here and there.
Me too.
His best coming at Indy on the road course, but he still didn't really have a result to compete with that. It's just been a rough season all around, and it's sad to see somebody go from the sport, but it really feels like it's his time.
Who does Ed Coyne Racing then look at to replace VK?
Yeah, and I know Greg and I were talking about that. I could maybe see if Dennis Hauger is not able to secure a seat at
Yeah.
Andretti or anywhere else, I can see him being a great fit for that team because he has some really, really good pace. Dale Coyne team, that racing team, at the end of the day, they are obviously trying to compete and do their best, but it does really feel like those two spots are really for development, and it'd be a perfect place for him to start off his IndyCar career.
Dale Coyne is the place a lot of great drivers have started.
Exactly.
Michelle and Elijah, thank you so much for your time. And I'm guessing we won't do this tomorrow again, but
You never
with the
know.
way things are going, you never know. We might have to do it again tomorrow.
Well, you would think that IndyCar is a lot of these teams are going to be trying to make moves here. I know their season is over, but they're going to want to have drivers in their seats because there's still testing that goes on. I would think they would want all their decisions made sooner rather than later.
Thanks so much to Elijah and Michelle for dropping everything and joining me to talk some IndyCar. Again, might have to do this on Wednesday or Thursday again. We'll definitely have a regular IndyCar report coming up. Probably on Thursday, could be on Friday this week. Depends on what's going on. Regularly during the week, during this regular season, it's on Thursdays. During the off season, it'll probably just be whenever we decide to do it. But you can be assured anytime there's breaking news, Elijah and I, and probably others, will be there to talk about it. Thanks so much for listening. Please do us a huge favor and share this podcast with an IndyCar fan in your life and help spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about what Central Indiana sports fans talk about every single day. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.